Today on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Long before the big brains on the PBA Tour's Players Committee dreamed up the stepladder format, which has become bowling's signature format for deciding many of its tournaments. The PBA had previously used a round-robin format for the TV finals, in which the second, third, and fourth place qualifiers bowled a series of round-robin matches to determine which one would advance to face the tournament leader for the title. This format was last used by the PBA at the 1966 Firestone Tournament of Champions, won by PBA Hall of Famer Wayne Zahn. Today on Prodigy, we're dusting off this old format that the PBA abandoned 53 years ago, and we'll use it to crown a champion. Celebrating junior bowling, elevating junior bowlers. This is Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Live on tape from the recently renovated Brunswick Zone Roswell in Roswell, Georgia. This is Coach Randy, welcoming you to episode 88 of Prodigy Bowlers Tour, Kickin It Ol Skool. We began the day with the smallest field since the last time we held a two-player episode, as many of our regulars opted to go take part in a ball demo day that was taking place in Woodstock, just a few miles down the road. We almost didn't even hold a Prodigy today, to be honest, but I'd been keeping this format in my back pocket for a while because I thought it might be fun to expose it to a whole new generation of bowling fans. This was the PBA's TV format from 1964 through 1966, when they dreamed up the concept of the stepladder or stair-step format that we typically use today. This round-robin format works like this. 3 players, the second, third, and fourth place qualifiers, will each bowl 2 matches. They'll bowl 1 match against the other 2 players. At the end of that round robin, we'll either have 1 player who emerges with a 2-0 record, or we'll have 3 players all tied with records of 1-1. If 1 player gets through the round robin with a 2-0 record, then he'll advance to face our tournament leader for the crown. But if they all finish the round robin tied at 1-1, then the player with the high 2-game pinfall in the round robin will advance. That's the essence of the PBA's old round robin TV format. But we've added a couple more wrinkles today just to spice things up a bit. For starters, in honor of my dearly departed fur baby Mulligan, we're bringing back the double mulligan. We've done this one other time on Prodigy a couple of years ago, and here's how it works. Each player will have 2 mulligans per game that they can use during the championship round. A mulligan is a do-over. These mulligans can only be used on their first ball in a frame. 1 mulligan they can use for themselves, and 1 mulligan they can use on their opponent. So the self-mulligan will come in handy when they fail to get a strike and want a second chance to get it. And the mulligan they can use on their opponent, I call it the cutthroat mulligan, they can use that when their opponent throws a strike and they want to take that strike off the scoreboard and force their opponent to throw the shot again. So that's how the mulligans work. Oh, and we're also bowling 9-pin no-tap today. Nothing fancy here if you get all 10 pins on your first ball in the frame, or if you get 9 on your first ball, it counts as a strike. And one last little wrinkle. 2 of our 4 players are nearly 200 average bowlers, while our other 2 players have averages in the 160s. So we negotiated a handicap for our 2 lower average players, and each one of them received 25 pins per game in qualifying and will receive 25 pins in their matches during today's championship round. So, let's meet our 4 contestants. One of these 3 kids will face our tournament leader for the title today. In our first match, number 4 qualifier Christian Minnell will face number 3 qualifier Brandon Caraviti. Then, the loser of that match will face our number 2 qualifier, Anthony Smiga. Then, in our third match, Anthony will bowl the winner of that first match, and that will complete the round-robin portion of the finals. If any of the 3 players emerges with a perfect 2-0 record in those matches, he'll face our tournament leader. But if all 3 of them finish tied at 1-1, the player with the highest 2-game pinfall will advance. So, the player who survives the round-robin matches will bowl for the championship today against our tournament leader, Hunter Moffitt. This 11-year-old won his 5th title of the season on Prodigy Bowlers Tour 3 weeks ago on Soul Bowl 2019. Last week at our From Paris to LA episode, he finished 2nd in the Littles division. Today, he'd like to make it 2 out of 3. And that's our field today on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. There's no time like the present to get our round-robin matches started, so let's go. In our opening match, it's Christian Manel against Brandon Caraviti. Now remember, Christian is spotting Brandon 25 pins, and we'll add those 25 pins into Brandon's score in frame 1, so you won't have to add a thing. Each of our 3 players in positions 2 through 4 is guaranteed to bowl at least 2 matches on the show today. How they come out of the round robin will determine whether they'll advance to face Hunter for the championship. Brandon had the choice, and he has elected to lead off. And there's a 9 count to begin, and that's good enough for a strike. Now you'll notice that when we put a strike up on a 9-pin no-tap strike, it won't be an X, it'll be an N on the score sheet, so nobody gets confused here. The old Stone 9. The bowler's best friend in a 9-pin no-tap. There's that N on the score sheet. The Christian won't need an N. He'll take the X, the old-time standard strike. Watch it again. He rips through it at the bottom. And chops out that 10-pin. All right, you'll also notice their 2 mulligans are on the score sheet. The smiley face is the one they get to use on themselves. And the skull and crossbones, the cutthroat mulligan, reserved for their opponent. Something fell out. I think one of his ear pods fell out onto the lane, and that's not a foul when you reach down to pick it up. Keep your head steady and not jerk it so hard. Hit it as hard as you can at the bottom. Nothing but strikes through the first 2 frames. You'll also notice that Brandon's 25-pin handicap differential is added in. It shows that he's up by 25. The big hook, little high, leaves the 4, but that's good enough in 9-pin no-tap. That, on the other hand, not so much, as that one sails wide. So strike 7 would be 27 in the first frame. We add 25 onto it, and that gives him 52 in the first. Here's how you make the 1-2-7. Put the ball on the Brooklyn side of the head pin, let it hook on through. You do this correctly, the ball will touch all 3 pins. Oh, but he's just a little wide and catches that 2-pin thin so that it goes into the gutter and just dies, so an open frame. Well, they're bowling on a pretty easy pattern today. We went light on them. Bourbon Street is a 7-to-1 ratio pattern. It's a recreation pattern, so it's not really a sport shot. It's just really a house shot. It's not our house shot, but it's a house shot. 40 feet with a fairly light volume of oil, so it could break down rather quickly today. But I would expect in 9-pin no-tap with a couple of mulligans, these players will be licking their chops. I expect the scores to be through the roof. Christian plows them over. And he don't need no stinking 9-pin no-tap on those 3 balls. Those were 3 solid strikes to begin. Take a look at this last one. Swings it out to about the 7th board or so. Now he's up in the 4th. And another one right in the pocket. Man. Christian may be wondering if we can switch from Stone Street to Bourbon Street as our house shot here. Stone Street being the pattern that is, in fact, our house shot. All right, Brandon. Recovers from that open frame with a solid strike of his own in the 4th, as all 10 exit the back of the pin deck. He's throwing it over the 4th arrow out to about 6 or 7 at the break point. I'm surprised he didn't take that mulligan in the 3rd frame. Uh-oh. Well, this would be a pretty good time to take it here, too. The 2-8-10. Very rarely will you see this made. The common strategy is to just go for 2, hit the 2-pin solid, get the 8 for your 9-out count. But if you want to make it, you got to put the 2 over into the 10 or the wall and have the pin bounce back across the lane and get the 8. Doesn't happen often. And you're not going to get it like that. So if you can't open once in a 9-pin no-tap, 2 opens, I don't know. That's probably not the way to go. Usually about 230, 240 is probably the floor of where you want to be if you want to have a chance to win a match in 9-pin no-tap, especially with mulligans. And Christian gets the messenger to take out the 10, even though he didn't need it to. That's 5 in a row to start. That one a little wider than the last couple he's thrown. And I think he's a happy boy. He's in his own world. But that time, it sailed on him. Now again, you're working on 5 in a row and every ball's in the pocket. Here's how you make the 1-2-8. You'd think he might take his mulligan right here. You get 2 mulligans. One you can use for yourself. The other you use on your opponent, and he is taking a pass. He's going to shoot the spare. And he gets the 1-2-8. Well, it's a 33-pin advantage for Christian. In a high-scoring environment, 33 can go away pretty quickly. But you got to string them. Which you'd think they ought to be able to do here. Brandon changing balls. I think this is a fever pitch that he's throwing. And he pulls it and catches the left edge of the head pin and gets just 8. And once again, he is passing on taking a mulligan. I'm not sure what these guys are thinking. Have they forgotten about their mulligans? Oh boy. Well, the good news for Brandon is you can lose one match and still survive in this format. Remember, in this round-robin format, they will bowl 2 games. Brandon will bowl Christian. He will also bowl Anthony. And he moved way to the right that time and tried to play straight up the boards, and that's not going to work on Bourbon Street. You've got to swing it out. And he clips off 3. That's something you don't see very often, and there is no more helpless feeling than to be bowling on a pattern you're not that familiar with and to be lost. He goes back to another ball. Crosses over, and that is his 4th open in 7 frames, and in a 9-pin no-tap, that ain't gonna work. So Christian can just freewheel it now. He's got a 57-pin lead, and he's almost through this first match with a dub. Might want to think about staying off the nose, though. You don't want to start leaving splits. Broke that one up, leaves the 6-10, and once again, not even thinking about his mulligan. I think these 2 guys have completely forgotten about them. They're there if you want to use them. Well, now that's the kind of break Brandon's looking for. He needs a couple more of those. Brandon can still get to 210 if he strikes out. Christian going at a 223 pace, so Brandon would need Christian to hand him a couple more mistakes, but you never know. Well, that's not a mistake. Christian tracked right for the pocket that time, and Brandon not even thinking about using the cutthroat mulligan on Christian here. I would think on the heels of that open frame might be a good time to drop it on him, but no. Brandon up and ready to go. Crossing over once again, leaving the 5, but in 9-pin no-tap. That's good enough, so he still has that 210 in sight, but he needs 4 more strikes. Christian will probably have to open twice to give Brandon an opportunity. Look out. Oh, he got that one back, but it still left an unusual 410 leave. You don't see the 410 left on a light hit very often, and he once again not even thinking about the mulligan. He looks like he's going to shoot the 410. Well, he's got to strike out. I would think that he would use it here. He's obviously just blanked and forgotten that he's got them in his pocket. So now his high score has been reduced to 178. Christian's sitting at 173 before he even throws this shot. He's going to win the match on this ball, probably. I'm assuming that Christian keeps the ball in the lane, which he does. And that one right there was good enough. And Brandon just now, Christian and Brandon both just now realizing that they let their mulligans just sit in their back pocket and never used one. Brandon, the palm of his hand hits his forehead in like the old I could have had a V8 moments. and he realizes that he let him get away. Well, I'm not sure that one or two mulligans would have made much difference this game. So if there's any consolation in knowing that he didn't use them, it's that. But now Brandon's back is to the wall. He's going to have to get all he can in the 10th frame. Don't forget that total pinfall may come into play if all three players finish 1-1 after the round robin. Then it will be decided on pinfall. Christian sails wide with that one into Never Never Land and leaves the fence. The 1-2-4-7 just cross over. Little Brooklyn hit right here ought to do the trick. Possible 219. But he opens, so that'll be a 207. And Brandon just can't control that hook. One of the things that now he's asking, can I use on my mulligan? Yeah, you can if you want. I guess he's not gonna. Might as well. Can't win the match, but I think he's forgotten that total pinfall could come into play. Again, if all three players in the round robin finish tied at 1-1, total pinfall for their two games will decide it. He's throwing pins away left and right. Oh, and he's just been reminded of it. Well, the good news for Brandon is he's got one more match. He'll have to make it up against Anthony.
Before you open up the gate,
there's a little bowling alley right there.
you wind up the ball.
It's got a little bowling shoes to wear.
Strolling, bowling, strolling, bowling, strolling, bowling, strolling, bowling. It's a little bowling ball that walks right down the lane.
It's funny.
It's spring.
This little bowling game.
Strolling Bowling is a little portable bowling alley from Tommy.
So with the first of our 3 round-robin matches in the books, Christian takes the early lead with a win. And Brandon, with that loss, is now in a must-win situation against Anthony. If Brandon loses this match, he's out. But if Brandon can get past Anthony, then Anthony would have to win against Christian for all 3 of them to go 1-1 in the round robin, and we'll decide it then by total pinfall for the 2 games. Or Anthony could eliminate Brandon here by winning, and that would set up a match with Christian to decide which of them, Anthony or Christian, would be moving on to face Hunter in the championship match. So let's get this second round-robin match underway as Anthony Smiga now steps in to take on Brandon Caraviti, who finds himself needing a win just to have a chance to continue. And once again, Brandon receives 25 pins in handicap. These handicaps are not set based on any percentage. We basically negotiated with the scratch players on behalf of Brandon and Hunter. Brandon and Hunter's averages are pretty close. Christian and Anthony's averages are pretty close. So it was just a negotiation. Ooh, he broke up the split. I bet you one thing. I bet these guys don't forget about their mulligans this match, like Christian and Brandon did. Once again, those two icons you see there on the score sheet, the smiley face and the skull and crossbones, they represent the two mulligans. As Brandon just barely gets the 4-7. The smiley face is for the mulligan they can use on themselves, and the skull and crossbones, the mulligan they can use on their opponent. Wide right for Anthony, and that's one of the more errant shots we've seen today. The 1-2-4-7, not the first time we've seen this spare today. Christian left it in the first match and missed it. Anthony shows you how it's done. So both players off and running with a spare, and you see Anthony 25 pins in arrears, even though they both have a spare in the first frame. That's because we're adding Brandon's 25-pin handicap differential into his score from the beginning. Crunch. Anthony gets that strike. He looks over to Brandon. I think Brandon was teasing him a little bit, like, I might use the mulligan on you right now, the cutthroat mulligan, but he doesn't. Lets that one slide. Well, now, there's an awkward spare. If ever there was a spare you don't want to have to shoot in a 9-pin no-tap, it's the 1, 3, 6, 8, 10, with the 10 sitting about 4 inches off spot to the right. Now, ordinarily he would have 15 in the first frame, but with the 25 pins added in, we give him 40, but that's coming off the board. He is going to use his mulligan right here. As you watch him, he's going to hit the reset button and sweep this god-awful spare away. So you see the smiley face now gone from Brandon's score sheet, indicating he has used his self-mulligan. So he will throw the first ball and the second all over again, as if that last one he threw never happened. And he makes good use of that mulligan. So now you've got the spare and then the strike in the second. Watch this. Over the fourth arrow, out to about 4 at the break point, and a sharp left turn. Spare and a strike gives you 20 in the first. With the 25 added on, that's his 45. And a ringing 10 looks a lot better in 9-pin no-tap than it would if you were trying to throw natural strikes. We indicate the 9-pin strikes with an N on the score sheet, so you see an X in the second frame for his natural strike, and then the strike he got in the third, Anthony is taking it down. Anthony has just pulled his cutthroat mulligan. So you see the skull and crossbones icon on Anthony's score sheet is now gone. He says, Brandon, I'd like to see you get that again if you want to strike in the third. And Brandon still gets 9. So that 9-pin no-tap strike, indicated with the N, goes right back up. And there's a solid strike by Anthony. And if Brandon wants to, he can use his cutthroat mulligan on Anthony right here. But it's pretty early in the match to be ridding yourself of the last mulligan you've got in your quiver. Stone 8. Well, most of the time you probably wouldn't like that. But that's a strike in 9-pin no-tap. And this time, Brandon is going to invoke his cutthroat mulligan. So Brandon is now out of mulligans. And Anthony only has one left, the one he can use on himself. So he'll have to throw that strike here on the left lane again. And he does. And he doesn't need the 9-pin rule to get it as the messenger flies across the lane. Watch the head pin. It'll go to the left wall and come racing across the lane to wipe out the 10. Although it didn't need to, with the 10-pin standing, it still would have been a strike. That, however, won't be. You got to get 9 or better to get a strike. 8 is 8. 8 is just 8. So he will have to shoot the 3-6. He'll go cross lane at it, probably throw his plastic ball. Yep. And he pulled it. Well, just as we saw in the first match, Brandon with an open frame early, and his 25-pin handicap differential that gave him a lead has now been squandered as he trails by a pin now. So he's flying without a net. This time he breaks up the 3-10 split to get 9 pins, leaving the 3, and that'll count as a no-tap strike. All right, Anthony. Oh, man, what was that? Well, it was the 6-pin, but it's good for a no-tap strike. But if he wasn't bowling no-tap, I think he'd be pretty chapped at this one. Watch the 6-pin, the second one from the right. That is highly unusual. That moved all the way over to the 5-pin spot. And there's another no-tap strike. 9 is enough. And Anthony now has 5 in a row and has extended his lead to 21 pins over Brandon. Brandon's got to get busy. He goes through the nose again. Well, if I was going to coach Brandon up, I would tell him that he's a little off balance at the foul line. We've talked about this before on Prodigy. He will kick that trail foot up in the air. I caught him on video once. He had his foot higher than his head. See how he kicks it up? Opens again. If he would keep that trail foot on the floor, it would keep his spine angle from dipping so far forward and to the right. He's way off balance. He's falling off to the right on almost every shot. And one of Brandon's biggest problems is that his game is all about arms and shoulders. He's trying to do all of it with his arms and shoulders and hand. And bowling, like all sports, golf, tennis, football, basketball, is played from the waist down. And his footwork, we've still got a lot to work on with his footwork. And he's way off balance at release. Look at that. It's the reason why he doesn't generate a lot of speed. And it's the reason why, despite a big hook, he doesn't get that many revs. The 3, 6, 9, 10, there are more ways to miss this than there are to make it. And he can ill afford another open. But he gets it, throwing his plastic ball. I would have recommended a ball that hooks when playing for double wood like that, but he converts the spare. Anthony just keeps right on chugging along. He's like the tide that just keeps coming in. rolled that one a little bit. Didn't get it as wide as some of the others, but on this oil pattern, you've got some area. Bourbon Street, very forgiving. That's as solid a strike as you'll see. And Anthony now with 7 in a row. A spare in the first frame and then 7 straight strikes. A couple of them 9-pin no-tap strikes, but they all count as strikes. He's thrown a lot of natural strikes this game, too. All right, Brandon down 53. There's a strike. Well, the situation is this. Brandon with 147 as we watch the replay of this last strike. Swings it out to about 6 at the break point. Brandon still has a possible 237. As hard to believe as that may be. And he keeps that possibility alive with that strike in the ninth. So it is still mathematically possible for him to take down Anthony, but he's got to win total pins between himself, Anthony, and Christian. He better take it off the sheet. Anthony is like, I don't care. You can take it off the sheet if you want to. I'm going to be there when it's over. Anthony already sitting at 230 before he throws another ball. The best Brandon can do is 237, so Anthony is probably going to put an end to Brandon's day with the next shot he throws. If Brandon finishes his 2 matches 0-2, that means we will have somebody finish 2-0, and it obviously won't be Brandon. Well, we've got a little stop in the action as we're waiting on a 180 to be cleared. So let's review what happened during our qualifying round and how we got here. We only had 4 players in the field today, our smallest field since the last time we did a 2-player Prodigy. Hunter Moffitt with a 182 scratch in the first game got off to the early lead over Brandon Caraviti, who was holding down second place. Anthony was in 4th place after that first game of our qualifying round. Christian shot a 195 to sneak into the 3rd position, and then in game 2, Hunter shot a 216 scratch, and Anthony posted a 255, and despite the fact that he wasn't getting any pins in handicap, that got him up into the top 2. In fact, for a while, it looked like he might take the lead, but that 216 that Hunter threw with his 25 pins handicap, he just edged Anthony by 11 pins at the end. Brandon came in 3rd with his 433 and a 210 scratch. And Christian, steady, 195 and 190, good for a 385 2-game total. So that's how we got into these positions prior to the round robin. In match 1 of the round robin, Christian defeated Brandon. So Brandon is in a must-win situation in this match. And that must-win is about to fly out the window because Anthony only needs a few pins here on the first ball in the 10th. And he will win this match, sending Brandon home. Well, there's 6. That's going to be enough. So Anthony has won the match. Well, now, wait a minute. He just threw that ball, and that is enough to put him over the top. He has won the match, but he is invoking his mulligan. Now, there's something you don't see every day. The guy throws the shutout ball. He says, no, I want that over. I think he wants his 290. Well, he keeps it alive. He's still got a chance for it. We take another look at this strike. 10 back. So 2 more, and he'll shoot 290. Not to be. He's out of mulligans. And sends a pin out in front of the rake. He'll just shoot this spare, and we'll clear the deadwood later. And Brandon, knowing that this match is decided, will go ahead and finish out. Anthony leaves one, so it's going to be 276 for Anthony. And Brandon still with a possible 215 with a spare and a strike. And he just barely gets the 6 and 10 to go. So what's going to happen now is Brandon has bowled his 2 matches in the round robin, and he's lost them both. So Anthony and Christian, both with a win, will meet for the right to go into the championship match against Hunter. So it's going to come down to Anthony and Christian. And we'll see them go at it when we return right after this message. Now, bring the spirit of Prodigy Bowlers Tour to your bowling center with Prodigy Bowlers Tour t-shirts and sportswear, including collared shirts with the Prodigy logo printed on the back to show that you support junior bowling. Check out the entire assortment of Prodigy t-shirts in the Brownswick store. Visit PRODIGYBowlersTour.com to see the selection. See the ash gray Celebrating Junior Bowling, Elevating Junior Bowlers t-shirt, or the Who Will Win the Coveted Trophy Pin t-shirt. Or maybe you'd want the one that says, I've come to get my bowl on, right on the front of the shirt, or simply, Bowl Me. There's a t-shirt that says, Bowling. You probably don't get it because it's mainly for smart people. And if you're a proud parent with a junior bowler, we've got a t-shirt just for you. And how about this t-shirt? You're bowling an 8th grader. Prepare to meet defeat. Available in grades 1 through 9, most in both adult and kid sizes. And finally, the shirt that reads, Bowl better, have more fun, take lessons. Then maybe you can keep up with me. The Brownswick store is powered by the people at Cafe Press, and all of these shirts are available right now. Just go to PRODIGYBowlersTour.com and click on the link to be taken right to the store. PayPal and credit cards accepted. That's PRODIGYBowlersTour.com. Get your bowl on and bring the spirit of Prodigy Bowlers Tour to your house. Order now. Go to PRODIGYBowlersTour.com. That's PRODIGYBowlersTour.com. This is the Prodigy Bowlers Tour television network. Well, that second game was a big improvement over the first for Brandon, but it wasn't enough as Anthony just buried him in an avalanche of strikes en route to a 276 game, the highest we've seen on Prodigy in some time. Of course, in 9-pin no-tap, we expect to see some high scores. But with his 0-2 match play record in our round robin, that means Brandon is eliminated. And this third round robin match will be decisive in determining who's going to bowl for the championship today. It comes down to our 2 scratch players, Anthony Smiga and Christian Manel. One of them will advance to the championship match to bowl for the title today against 11-year-old Hunter Moffitt. Which one of these 2 power players will get the better of the other? We're about to find out. And these 2 have been complaining since the very first ball of qualifying about the handicap. So I'm glad it's come down to these 2 scratch players for the right to get to the championship match. And Anthony thinking about it. He's going to take his self-mulligan here in the very first frame. He leaves the 310 baby split, and I actually think this is a pretty good call. You don't want to start with a split when you're bowling 9-pin no-tap, so he takes his mulligan, and he will go again. He has one mulligan left that he can use on Christian. And that was well played. That's what the mulligans are for right there. So he gets a strike to start the match. And now he ought to feel a little bit better. And there you go. 10 back. All right, Christian up on lane 40. And he leaves the 2-8 double wood.
Mulligan, yeah!
And he says he's taking his mulligan. He wants none of that double wood spare, and I don't blame him. So it is swept away. That'll take the 8 count off the board. And both players have used their 2 self-mulligans. So now Christian will try to do what Anthony did, take advantage of his mulligan and get a strike.
Why'd you make me put that mulligan?
Oh, no.
No, you made you do the mulligan.
And now he's saying, why did you make me take the mulligan? Well, let's take another look at that shot. On our instant rewind. Oh, it looks a little different from this different angle. All right, that's not really the shot that he threw, but it could have been. And he goes high in his attempt to get the spare, breaks down the 4-9 and leaves just the 9, but that's 9 out. And a costly mistake. He squanders his mulligan and ends up with an open frame in the first against Anthony, and he is none too happy about it. And actually, when Christian gets mad at himself, he sometimes bowls his best. Look out. See? A little extra focus. You can see it on his face now. He's really determined to make amends for that mistake. He hates throwing those gutter balls that he's become known for, but the best way to stop being known for them is to stop throwing them. Anthony, a powerful strike in the second, and he extends his lead. Remember, Anthony shot a 255 in the second game of qualifying. He loves this pattern. Hello. That's 3 in a row out of the gate. And Anthony hits the ground running here in match 3. Playing it a little straighter. About 10 at the break point, maybe even 11. All right, Christian going for a double. Looks like he slowed down his ball speed a little bit, giving that ball a chance to read the lane. He's playing deep in the oil. And that's where you would want to throw it a little slower to give the ball a chance to react. 10 in the pit. And he does it again. So after that open frame in the first, Christian with a turkey now. As we watch this one again, we'll see his footwork. And a solid strike. See his reaction this time. He is all business now. All right, Anthony up in the fourth. It comes up just a little bit high, but because we're bowling 9-pin no tap, the N goes up on the score sheet in the fourth frame. That is a no tap strike, and he extends his lead back to 21 pins. Both players have used their self mulligan. They have a cutthroat mulligan they can use on their opponent. And the stone 9 this time denies him a natural strike, but it's good enough in 9-pin no tap. This is how you leave a stone 9. The ball goes through with a little too much angle, chops the 5 right off the 9. He almost got it with that pin rolling by, but it just missed the 9 in front. All right, Christian back down by 31. He's got to keep striking just to stay close to Anthony. He cuts the lead to 21 with that strike. Oh, what he would do to have that first frame over again. Oh, wait a minute. He already had that first frame over again and didn't take advantage of it. Still, it's become a strike-a-palooza here. Boom! And the lead is back down to 11 now, following that strike in the sixth by Christian. Over the fourth arrow, out to about 12 at the break point. He's definitely playing a lot deeper on the lane than Anthony. Although Anthony played that one pretty straight. Goes through the nose and trips the 6. It's a magic trick. Even if the 6 had stood, it still would have been a strike, but watch this. I think he meant to get this one a little wider. He pulled this one. It only got out to about 12 or 13. And look at that break right there. All right. There's another solid strike, and Anthony has the front 7. Well, we expected the scores to be high today. And Christian back down by 31. A weak 10, he'll take it, because that'll count as a strike. That's his first no-tap strike this game. The previous 5 he had were all naturals. But wait a minute. Anthony has just invoked his cutthroat mulligan on Christian, so that 9-pin no-tap strike on the right lane comes off the board. Anthony's cutthroat mulligan has been used, so he has no mulligans left. And now Christian will bowl the 7th frame all over again. Oh! What a break! He had the 6-10 standing. The 10 goes late, and it still counts as a 9-pin no-tap strike. This is a huge break. He's down by 31. And with that 9 count, which counts as a strike in 9-pin no-tap, he cuts the lead to 21 and he yells, "Let's go!" And a stone 8. Most times that would annoy the heck out of him, but not this time. That counts as a strike. The lead is down to 11. And Anthony keeps the string going. He's got strikes through the first 8 frames.
Hey, you know the best part is? Scratch. But the best part is...
Watch this one. This is more like the line he's trying to play. That one gets out to about 8. All right, up on the left lane, 9th frame. And another strike. That's the front 9 for Anthony. And Christian's looking at the score sheet. He's calling for it. He's using his cutthroat mulligan right here. He only had this shot and the next one where it would matter. Christian, the most he can get is 279. If Anthony'd gotten the 9th strike and the first one in the 10th, he'd be in the 280s. So Christian using it here. And a well-played mulligan. And Anthony calls a good mulligan. It was. So the string stops after 8 in a row. Anthony wide with the 9th shot. He applauds Christian's use of the mulligan there, but now he needs a spare. And gets it. But now look at how things have changed. Christian with a possible 279. That 8 count by Anthony means the best he can get is 278. So Christian can throw 4 strikes right now and shut out Anthony. Oh, that's left. Oh, but he gets 9. So it'll count as a strike. Everybody's out of mulligans now. So with that strike, Christian cuts the lead to 9. That was left off his hand. It never had a chance of finding the pocket, but in 9-pin no-tap, 9 is enough. Now, if he can get a strike on the first ball in the 10th, he can take the lead. And he gets another Brooklyn. So look at this. Christian has moved out ahead for the first time in the match. He knew it was left, just hoping that it'll get far enough left, like a golfer, hoping that his errant tee shot finds the adjacent fairway. He was begging for it to get left. All right, but here's the big one. If he can get this, he'll have a chance to shut Anthony out. Uh-oh. A 7 count. So he hands the lead back to Anthony. Now he's going to want to make this. Count could be very important here. The 3-6-9, you want to hit the 3 fairly solid, but just a little off center so that you be sure and get the 6. Oh, look out. Oh, my goodness. That ball was fading away to the right, but he still managed to get them all. A 266. But Christian has opened the door for Anthony. Anthony needs to fill 19 in the 10th. He can do it with a strike and 9 on 2 balls. If he gets 8 on his first ball, he'll need a spare strike to tie. If he gets 7 on this ball, Christian wins the match. Oh, no! So look what happens here. The 8 count means he loses 2 pins in count. This match is now even. Anthony must make the 4-9 and strike on the fill ball for a tie. He's got to make this. Oh, man! You can't come any closer. But the rake sweeps it away, and Christian has won the match. Unbelievable. Watch how close he was. He will cut this so thin it falls in front of the 9. That would have made the 4-6. That's how thin you got to cut it to get the 4-6. But look at this. It's too thin for the 4-9, and no one was more surprised than Christian, who is in shock. although probably not as much shock as Anthony's feeling right now. He bowled terrific. But it's Christian who's moving on to face Hunter in the championship match when we return. Hey, it's me, Coach Randy, with exciting news about a new way you can help support Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Over the past couple of years, we've had a number of Prodigy fans say they'd love to offer something in payment for the Prodigy content seen each week on YouTube throughout the bowling season. Well, I'm pleased to announce that Prodigy is now on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Now, in case you're not familiar with it, Patreon is a platform where YouTube content consumers like you can connect directly with YouTube content creators like me and pledge a small amount of money each month to support the work that goes into creating the content that you enjoy watching. It's based on the age-old concept of patrons. About 30 to 40 hours of work goes into the production of each and every episode of Prodigy Bowlers Tour. So if you enjoy the content on Prodigy Bowlers Tour each week and you'd like to support the show, please check it out at patreon.com/Prodigy Bowlers Tour. There are 4 affordable subscription tiers, and each one offers a different reward, up to and including sneak peeks of shows before they're released to the public, exclusive behind-the-scenes content that only members will ever see, and there's even a tier that will enable you to get all that and get your name in the credits each week as a producer of the show. You'll be helping me to be able to continue making the show each week and even reinvest some of the money into improving the show going forward. Thanks for checking it out, and thanks for supporting Prodigy Bowlers Tour. You can watch bowling on TV from now until you get old and gray, and you won't see a match that was any more thrilling than the one we just witnessed. Anthony bowled his heart out, and as you can see from his 2-game total of 531, bowled better than either Christian or Brandon in the round robin. But Anthony's failed attempt to convert the 4-9 in the 10th frame missed by a whisker, and it cost him a trip to the championship match. And no one was more shocked than his opponent, Christian, who squandered a mulligan in the first frame only to throw a gutter ball, then climbed back into the lead only to give it back on his ball in the 11th, and then watched Anthony hand the match right back. It was a roller coaster all the way to the end. But now we head into the championship match, where Christian Manel will have to gather himself after that emotional thrill ride, as he'll be spotting 11-year-old Hunter Moffett 25 pins in handicap. And Hunter is liable to live in the pocket on this oil pattern. So we could see more fireworks in this match. Only one of these two will get to sign the coveted trophy pin at the end. And there you go, Hunter starting with a strike in the first frame. And remember, he shot a 216 scratch his second game of qualifying. That's 241 when you add the 25 pins in that he's getting. But of course, Christian just shot 266, so he can handle it. And there's a solid strike for Christian in the first frame as both players begin with an X. Now, once again, they each get 2 mulligans. One they can use on themselves, one they can use on their opponent. It has to be used on the first ball in a frame, but you can call it at any time. As we see Christian's first frame strike again, trailing by 25 because of those 25 pins handicap differential Hunter's getting. Now this time, Christian pulls it, crosses over, and he leaves the 6, 9, 10, And he's already calling for the mulligan as Big Boy has come in to change the overhead score sheet. So you see Christian's smiley face mulligan gone from the score sheet on your screen. He has only his cutthroat mulligan left that he can use on Hunter. And now he wants to make the most of this one. And he nearly left the 6, 9, 10 again. But he breaks him down, gets 9. So that'll be a no-tap strike in the second frame. He pulled that one a little left of the fourth arrow, which is where he's been playing. And he's happy to get away with 9 there. Nearly rocked that 10 down, although it wouldn't really matter. In 9-pin no-tap, 9 counts as a strike. He knows he got away with 1, and he'll take it. So now Hunter up on the second. His lead has been cut by 10. But with that strike, giving Hunter a double, his lead swells back to 25 pins. I heard one of the players say that Hunter sometimes bowls better on Prodigy than he does in League, even when we're bowling on a sport shot. Now, today's pattern is pretty easy, not really a sport shot. And he's right in the pocket again with another strike. That's 2 natural strikes on the left lane and a 9-pin strike on the right for Hunter, so he's perfect through the first 3 frames. He's playing just inside the third arrow, out to about 8 at the break point, and he taps out the 10 just like he did in the first frame. All right, Christian up on lane 40. And, well, that's how you make a strike right there. You just make them all disappear at once. Solid in the pocket. Perfect balance, and he likes it. Christian bowled in a handicap event on Prodigy once when Hunter went through and climbed the step ladder and beat everybody, so he knows what he's up against. There's another strike for Christian. So, everybody's perfect through 3.5 frames. This was the kind of scoring pace we expected today. These players can hit the pocket. It's just usually a matter of can they carry. That's got to get up. Oh, but it does! And he leaves a swishing 7, which is good enough for a strike. Watch this. I thought he got that one a little too wide. That thing is out on about the 4th board. That's urethane he's throwing, friends. A pitch black. Perfect through 4. And that one a little inside his target. He's got the area he needs. And that's the front 5. Let's watch Hunter's footwork. He's a 6-stepper. Those little guys will start at the back of the approach sometimes, take 6 steps to generate the forward momentum to give them enough ball speed. Christian gets another crossover. So that brings Hunter's lead back to 25. Neither player has blinked yet. Doing a little traffic cop action out there. Hey, whatever it takes. Oh, he's light this time. And he's already used his self-mulligan, so he can't take overs this time. He leaves the 2-4-5-8. So that'll cost him 4 pins in count. And he chops it. Well, you cannot afford open frames in 9-pin no-tap. So Hunter with a 41-pin lead, and he hasn't even thought about not striking yet. And he gets another one in the 6th. That'll grow the lead to 51. But wait. Christian, with the only mulligan he still has left in the bag, he's going to use it right here. His cutthroat mulligan, he calls it on Hunter. So Hunter will take that strike off the board in the 6th, and he'll have to throw it again. And this time he only gets 8. So that was a well-played mulligan by Christian. And wait a minute. Hunter's going to spend his self-mulligan right here. He can do that. They have 2 mulligans apiece. One they can use on themselves, one they can use on their opponent. And Christian pulled his cutthroat mulligan on Hunter. Hunter got 8. So Hunter's using his self-mulligan, and he will go again. And this time they all go. And Hunter thinks that's pretty funny. I do too. Apparently Christian doesn't think it's very funny. I think we can understand why. Take another look at this one. Slaps out the 10. And he's amused. All right, front 6. And that's where the string stops right there. So he leaves the 3-6-10. So we're not going to see a no-tap 300 today. And Hunter has a tricky little spare here. The 3-6-10. Put the ball on the 3 and the 6. 6 will get the 10. Hunter's a good little spare shooter. And so he maintains his 48-pin lead over Christian. And Christian better get busy. And you see Christian nodding his head. I can't believe this kid's got all the shots. Hunter is 11. Christian will turn 16 this summer. But can he beat a 5th grader? That is the question. He trips the 4 and gets a strike in the 7th, but look at this. Hunter's going to use his last remaining mulligan, his cutthroat mulligan, on Christian right here in the 7th. Hunter says, I'd like to see you throw that strike again. And Christian doesn't like the rack. The 3 pins off spot to the left. I think I would probably re-rack that as well. You see the gap between the 3 and the 6? That would be more of a problem if we weren't bowling 9-pin no-tap. But this rack looks a lot better. And he gets them all to go, so there's a strike in the 7th for Christian. Both players have exhausted their supply of mulligans. And we'll watch this shot again. Christian in perfect balance when he lets it go. Swings it out to about 9. It hit a little high, but he tripped the 4 and 7. He's got to take it off the sheet. Not going to do it like that. I think he knows he's in trouble now. The best he can do is 244 with a spare here and 4 strikes. Uh-oh. Well, you might say that Christian used up all he had in that match against Anthony. That match was an instant classic. But Hunter's got him here. And Hunter rips the rack just for good measure. And he can just about walk this one in from here. About 17 at the arrows, out to about 7 or 8 at the break point, and see you later, pins. He liked it. So with that strike, Hunter just needs to show up in the 9th frame, and he's going to put this one away. And that 7 count will do it. The best Christian can do is 230. Hunter's already got that beat. Even with that open in the 9th, he's sitting at 240, and Christian is just going to throw the ball and get this over with. He doesn't even care where it's going. Well, you got to hand it to him. I mean, he bowled lights out against Anthony in the match that mattered to him to get into this championship match with Hunter. But as I mentioned earlier, Christian and Anthony both were not happy about giving up 25 pins to Hunter and Brandon. They knew that both of them were capable of bowling well, especially in 9-pin no-tap. Although both of those guys, Christian and Anthony, put up some big numbers themselves. Christian with the 5-8-10, he's just throwing it hard out of frustration. And look at this. Hunter gets the 8-10 to fall out late. I got to learn that shot. Christian goes 9 out for a 185. Watch this strike by Hunter. I have no idea what got the 8-pin to go out. I would assume the 5-pin leaned into it. Yeah, got it from behind as the 6 just gave him the love tap on the 10. Hunter a possible 270. All right, he can get 260 with a spare on the fill ball. That's definitely pretty hard to beat. Christian gave it his best shot, but I think he used it all up against Anthony. 259 for the little guy as he accepts congratulations from Christian, and it's Hunter Moffett who will be signing the coveted trophy pin yet again when we return.
Nothing hurts a bowler's performance like an out-of-balance ball. That's why I teamed up with the people at Ebonite to develop the Thunderbolt Dual Block. Its patented weight placement system as a dual weight block to offset the weight removed by drilling with incredible precision, making every roll more stable, every impact more powerful.
The Thunderbolt Dual Block from Ebonite. This is it, the new Gyro Balance Ball by Ebonite, world's first and only professional bowling ball. And this is Don Carter, the man who conceived it. Over there, Carmen Salvino, Ray Bluth, Harry Smith, Bill Allen, and Billy Hartwig, some of the greatest bowlers in the world today. Every one of these men bowls for a living, and every one bowls Ebonite's new Don Carter Gyro Balanced Ball. Custom balanced to control your hook precisely. Custom weighted on top to put the power where the pins are. Why are so many pros making the big switch to Ebonite? Simply because they win more money with it. That's the ball, the pro ball, the custom ball with the big Y that puts the power where the pins are. Ebonite's new Don Carter Gyro Balance, the ball that gives you the Ebonite edge. Since Don Carter Gyro Balance balls take longer to build, make sure you order yours now.
So there you have it. It's Prodigy Bowlers Tour's trip down history lane to see how the PBA's old round-robin TV finals format worked. Our second through fourth place qualifiers each bowled 2 matches, one against each of the other 2 finalists in a round robin. In our case today, Christian emerged from the round robin with a perfect 2-0 record, which sent him to the championship match to face our tournament leader, Hunter. And today, Hunter was up to the task of fending off his challenger. Of course, back in the days of the round-robin TV format, the PBA didn't bowl 9-pin no-tap, and they certainly didn't use mulligans or handicap as we did today. But then again, the PBA has never had a coveted trophy pin to sign. And our champion this week put his name on it for, what is it now, the 6th time so far this season? We'll have the coming weeks to sort that out. But for now, it's enough to know that when Prodigy Bowlers Tour was kicking it old school, it was an 11-year-old who showed them all how it's done.